I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 21, Planning Ahead for Hard Days. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful people. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope that you're doing well. So this episode is going to be all about planning ahead for hard days. It is right around holiday season here. We have Christmas coming up. We have New Year's coming up. And it can be a hard time of year for a lot of people. I know that we can have hard days throughout the year, sprinkled about, right? But because there tend to be some harder things around holidays sometimes, I decided to do this episode now to dive in and just talk about this. So part of the reason why I think holidays can be especially hard for my particular clientele is because sometimes we're dealing with first. It might be a first Christmas without your kids with you that day. It might be your first holiday season splitting up kids. It might be that it's your first holiday season staying with your spouse with the hard year that you've had of learning about your spouse's infidelity. It might be that you're having get-togethers with people that bring up stuff for you, things that you think they might be thinking or might feel a little bit shaky around, whatever. There's all kinds of different situations we can find ourselves in at this time of year. We tend to talk about the wonderful holiday season, and I do love the holiday season, but the reality is that for a lot of people, there can be some painful things that come up, and I want to help you be prepared for that, okay? So I'm just going to dive right on in. So first step, I'm going to talk about a few different ways to set yourself up for success. Okay. So first step is to take a look at why this date is hard for you. Ask yourself the question, why is this hard for me? And then listen to your answer. Be honest with your answer. What is the story you are associating with that day? What will be challenging for you on this day or at this event? Ask yourself. Okay. I'm going to give you some examples that might come up for some of you. Some of these are just hypothetical. Some of these are from clients that I work with, that these are actual things that they're dealing with, okay? So for example, one of my clients, I had a call with her the day before Thanksgiving, and she was feeling anxiety, actually a couple days before Thanksgiving. She was feeling anxiety about that Thanksgiving because she and her husband are trying to work through things, and the family has known that they have struggled and knows that they have gotten close to getting divorced, and she was worried about comments that might be made or how she would be treated. It was going to be with his family. And so all of the things that I'm going to talk about in this podcast, I worked through with her before that day. That's one example of something that might be difficult. Another client of mine is dealing with having a home study done at her home for a custody evaluation. And I worked with her last week, and she has a lot of anxiety around that. Another thing might be stepping into a mediation, going to a mediation where you're deciding who gets what, who does what, whatever, and some anticipatory anxiety about that. Another would be an anniversary of when she found out. This is a client as well. This is right around the time where she found out that her husband was having an affair. So replaying, going through those things, remembering how hard it was. It's only been 1 year. Sometimes it can be anniversaries that come up, dates that come up that mean something to you. Another might be anticipatory anxiety about a conversation that you need to have, that you know will be hard for you. Those are just a few of many examples. What might be hard to one person might not be hard for you, and what might be really hard for you might not be hard for someone else, and it doesn't matter. Okay? I want you to ask yourself, why is this hard? Why am I feeling this anxiety around this date? What am I making it mean? What am I worried about? So In the case of the mediation, my particular client in that situation, she was really afraid that she would be plowed over. She was afraid that she would be too scared to tell the truth and to hold her ground. She was worried that she would be minimized and that she would feel like she was shrinking. So she had a lot of fear around that. Another one, the example of the home study, she's so scared that she might miss something that the evaluator will see and use against her, and that she'd be judged critically and potentially put herself in risk of the custody situation. Anniversaries. My clients who worry about anniversaries are worried they're kind of afraid of their own emotions. They're worried that it will just take them over, that they'll be overcome with powerful, painful emotions and memories, and that it will be too much to bear, too painful. The hard conversation. My clients worry that they might lose control and say something they don't mean, or won't be able to say what they want to say. They might worry about the judgments or the feelings of the person they're talking to. They don't intend to hurt that person's feelings, but they're afraid of how it might land and the other person's judgments or hurts or how they're feeling. They might worry about what they feel about themselves in the moment, like might worry that they'll be so set before and so settled before on what they want to say, and that they'll lose their grip on it and are so afraid of that. So just telling the truth to yourself of why it might be difficult is huge, because you're acknowledging that you're human and that sometimes we are afraid of our own feelings. Naming out loud what it is that you're afraid of can help you take a little step back from it and decide if you want to keep that fear or not. It can help you to see outside your own brain in a little bit of a different lens, and then you can decide if that's something you actually want to engage in the first place, right? So the next step here is in deciding how you want to show up for yourself at this event. I suggest journaling all of this, like writing it down. This process of getting it out of your head and onto paper is just one more separation from yourself and the words on the paper. It's not you. It's just the thoughts that you're having. It's the feelings that you're having. It's not actually you. Back to what I just said, though, about telling the truth, having that little bit of a different lens on and saying to myself, okay, I'm afraid of this. Do I want to believe this fear? Do I want to buy into this? Do I want to even go down that path, or do I want to just set it down right now? If it's something that you know is going to come again and again and rear its head, no problem. No problem at all. Okay, you're instructing yourself how you want to deal with it. You're instructing yourself how you're going to handle it. It's not a problem. Okay, it doesn't mean anything that it's there. So when you're journaling this, you're writing down how you want to show up for yourself at this event. Write it down. Okay, let's go back to some of the examples I used before. Let's talk about an anniversary, okay? So let's say that the anniversary is coming, and sure, you could like psych yourself up and say, I'm just going to stay positive that day. You might not want to, though. What if you just allowed yourself to be sad and said, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to allow some sadness, but I'm going to set some boundaries around where I'm going to allow my thoughts to go. Did you know you can set boundaries with your own thoughts? It's so cool. You can decide, I'm going to allow some sadness. I'm going to stay in this place, but I'm not going to start beating myself up. I'm not going to start wondering what if. I'm just going to allow myself to be sad that it's our anniversary and that things did not go the way I thought they were. Okay, this goes for if you stay married or not. Those days can come up and they can just be something that reminds you of some hard times, whether you stay with the person or not. You can allow yourself some sadness, okay? Not a problem. How about in the case of the mediation? This client of mine decided she wanted to show up clear-minded and with a clear articulation of what she wanted. So her work was to decide what she wanted, to decide how she wanted to show up, to write down the things that matter to her, and to be ready to say those things in that room. For the other one of being around family that knows you're having problems, you want to be confident, or you might want to be these things, right? You might want to show up as confident, not over-explaining, or being in an apologetic energy. I love Brene Brown. Anyone here a Brene Brown fan? I love her. She's great. If you haven't listened to her or read anything, go just pick up just about anything. YouTube. She's great. I love Brene. I love what she says when she needs to remind herself of who she is. Do not puff up, do not shrink, but stand my sacred ground. Isn't that amazing? Do not puff up, do not shrink, but stand my sacred ground. That's the energy that this client wanted to have when she went into this mediation. I'm not going to get pushy. I'm not going to try to convince anybody of anything. And I'm also not going to shrink. I'm going to stand my sacred ground. Okay. Okay, so on to step 3, okay? Get really, really clear on what it looks like to be that person. You hear me say all the time in these podcasts to ask yourself really good questions and answer them truthfully. So, for example, what if in the situation of the Thanksgiving dinner with the extended family, what if you set up an escape route for yourself? Like if it starts to go this way, this is how I'm going to take an exit. I'm going to allow myself to leave. What would that look like? What if you have a very specific plan to take care of yourself? Like, for example, on the anniversary day, what if you just decided that on this day, I'm going to give myself a couple hours to just be with myself. I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to maybe do some yoga, maybe do some meditation, whatever that is for you, but giving yourself permission to be with yourself. What we tend to do on those days is we try to keep ourselves so busy so we don't have to look at it or feel it. I'm asking you to allow yourself to feel. What if that was your plan? Was I'm going to allow myself to feel some pain. I'm going to allow myself to process my emotion and not make it wrong that I'm feeling it. What if you just allowed that? What if you had a code word? Like, what if you clued somebody else in on the thing that you're afraid of, and part of the plan that you set up is a code word of needing somebody else to just be there and help you and to recognize that you're in a certain spot emotionally and to kind of help you out and remind you, somebody to remind you of who you are and how you want to experience that day. It's kind of an accountability thing as well, right? So part of this is getting really clear about the result that you want. Okay, so let's give an example here. Let's talk about my client who was going into a mediation, okay? I asked her to get really clear about what she wanted. Now, we can't control what other people in the situation are going to do. We can kind of guess what they're going to do, right? But we don't know. We don't know exactly. And so you need to set yourself up for knowing what success looks like to you, regardless of what other people do. So in the example of the mediation, the result that she wanted was to ask clearly for what she wants and only say yes to something when she means it. That's it. Not arguing, not getting into it, not shoving down her wishes and desires and discounting her own voice. So to do this, she would need to speak up. She would need to ask clarifying questions. She would need to say yes when she means yes and no when she means no. She would need to feel empowered, and a thought that she might be thinking is what I want matters. Thinking what I want matters can create a feeling of empowerment and allow her to show up in that way. I want you to do this same kind of exercise for whatever date or event you might be dreading. You're going through deciding what you want your result to be, and then how you need to show up for that result to happen in that way, what you need to feel to take the actions that you're taking, and the thought that's fueling that feeling, okay? You're like writing out the thought that's going to create the emotion that you want to be able to show up the way you want to and ultimately get the result that you want. Another really great question to ask yourself is, if it gets really, really hard, what is my plan? I want you to have some kind of reminder to yourself that you can read at this event that will remind you. It can be a screensaver that you can glance at on your phone. It can be a note that you keep in your pocket. It can be sharing your plan with someone else and asking for their help. The most important step here in all of this is to mentally rehearse the event over and over again and decide what your plan will be. Decide in your mind what it's going to look like, and then play it out in your mind over and over. Play out different scenarios. If this person that I kind of am nervous about says this or does this, this is how I respond. And you're literally watching yourself in your mind respond in that way. You're playing it out in your mind over and over again. Now, I'm going to give you an example from my son. And I think I might have shared this before. I apologize, but it's very relevant here. So I have a son who needed to have a difficult conversation. And I asked him, no matter what the other people in the room do, how will you know that you won? How will you know that it was successful and that you showed up in the way that you wanted to? And he said, I won't get defensive. No matter what, I will not be defensive. And so afterwards, when we talked and I asked him, did you win? He said, yep, I did. I didn't get defensive. And you know what? The people involved did not say the things he wanted them to say. It was a little bit rough, actually, but for him, he could walk away with his head held high because he knew what his standard was for himself, that he was not going to be defensive and that he was still going to stand his ground without caving to that. So in the end, he could be proud of himself. Practice over and over, like rehearse it in your mind. When you wake up in the morning, think about that day, think about whatever it is, the conversation, whatever it is, what you're anticipating, and actually go there in your mind and play out different scenarios. This way too, you're not surprised when things happen because you've already rehearsed it in your mind over and over, right? You've already seen it in your mind. You've already planned on it. You already know what you're going to do. Also, I just want to point out that sometimes winning the day is allowing yourself to have a hard day. What if you can just let it be hard? What if it's okay to just have a hard day? Just say, yep. How can you hold yourself in that and have compassion for yourself and say, it's okay that I'm having a hard day. I love myself. I'm going to let it be hard today. Wrapping your arms around yourself, taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself. It's okay. And I want you to remind yourself that how you feel that day is not always how you're going to feel. You're having a day. It doesn't mean it's going to last forever, okay? It might mean that part of experiencing that day is talking to somebody about what you're experiencing, even and especially when it's not something that you normally talk about. It might be part of healing for you to open up and talk about it. So I'm going to give you a couple examples from my own life that I've used this work for in hopes that it will help you, okay? One of them is, as you know, if you've listened to my podcast, my first husband died 7 months after we got divorced, and it was quite a blow. And it was tricky because I had some people telling me that I shouldn't be sad because we were divorced and what's the problem? And in reality, I was very, very sad. I was very, very crushed. I was very sad that this person that I was married to for 16 years was gone. I was sad for my babies who lost their father. And I was sad that it was so quick and sudden and that none of us had a chance to say goodbye. He was just gone. And so on that anniversary of his death, for the first few years, I wanted to just be sad. I wanted to remember that day and remember the concern and care that I had for him. I wanted to give him that moment out of respect for his life, out of respect that he was the father of my 6 children, out of respect for our marriage, out of respect for the space that we took up in each other's life. We were married for 16 years. It didn't matter that it ended in divorce. I could still hold that space to think about him and show some reverence for the life that he lost that day. His life was over that day. And, it's been so interesting because as I have allowed myself to feel what I'm going to feel, to say, I think I am just going to feel sad today. This last year, it came and went, and I was totally fine. And I think a lot of it is because I've allowed myself to feel. And I no longer need to do that. I can think about him and think about him with a smile on my face and wish him all the best and not get pulled into feelings of sadness because I've already experienced it. And now I'm ready to move forward, and I don't feel the need to do that anymore. It's interesting how allowing ourselves to be sad can help us on the back end to be open to feeling other things that we might want to feel. Another day that has traditionally been kind of hard for me is Valentine's Day. And I know that I've mentioned this before too, but I got married to my husband 4 years ago, and his first wife died on Valentine's Day. And that's been a little bit of a hard day because my new kids lost their mom that day, and because my brain likes to play tricks on me that day. And coming from my experience of all the deceit and all of the things that happened in my first marriage, my brain likes to trick me into making me think that he's not with me that day, that he's somewhere else, and like lots of drama in my mind on that day, lots of storytelling on that day. And I've practiced this work, and I get better and better at it as the years go by, of just allowing myself to be somebody who feels for myself, who has compassion for myself, who feels for my husband who lost his wife that day, who feels for my children who lost their mother that day. And I can have compassion for all of us, that it's not ever going to be your traditional Valentine's Day, and I can hold space for that, and it's okay, and I can decide what that day will look like. No matter what, you get to decide, my friends, how you want to show up. You get to decide. People are going to do what they're going to do. People are going to be people, right? You get to decide what is a win for you. And like you've heard me say before, a question that is always good to ask is, what would love do? How would love show up in this situation? How would love show up for me and for everyone in the room? Sometimes love is saying the hard things. Sometimes love is feeling the hard emotions. But the more intentional you are about this, you don't need to be blindsided anymore by those holidays. You don't need to be blindsided like, oh, this anxious dread and anxiety of the day, because you already have a plan and you know that you can handle it. You know that whatever negative emotion you experience that day, that it's temporary. Whatever happens, you can handle it. You're tough. You're strong. You are feeling it intentionally on purpose. You will not always feel this way. And that brighter days are going to come. Those days will not always be as hard as they are today. The more you practice this work, the more those scary days lose their grip. They are not quite as foreboding and scary anymore. So I'm sending you all my love. I'm sending you a big hug from Montana, wherever you are. I've decided for my family that I'm going to hold off on episode number 22 until after Christmas. I'm going to take some time off that week and spend some time with my family. So there will be no episode on Christmas Day, but there will be the following week. But I'll be thinking about you. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.